Look at Genesis 21, 11, verses 11 through 21. We're still in the book of Genesis talking about Abraham, Sarah, Hagar, Ishmael, and all the things that they went through in their journey of the lineage of Jesus. Abraham was chosen by God. He was a man of God. He was a faithful man, and God trusted him. So this is what happened. Let's look at Genesis 21. The related scripture is Luke 13:28. They talked about it in Luke, Genesis 16:10, 17 and 18. Now, we know that this took place in Canaan, which was the promised land that God promised Abraham. The time was 2062 BC. Our golden text is, God said unto Abraham, let it not be grievous in thy sight because of the lad, the boy, that they had out of wedlock, which was Ishmael. Ishmael. He was kind of fond of Ishmael. Actually, Abraham favored Ishmael. So it grieved his heart that he had to send his own son away. Could you imagine having to send your own child away? Well, Ishmael was his son, his flesh, bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh. And a time came in their lives when he was about 17 years old, around 16 or 17, they say, and he had to send his own child away. If we think about the time that we're living in today, if someone were to ask you to send your child away, your wife, or I guess he was, to Sarah, he was a stepson. So if I had if I was married to someone and I had a child, and my husband, if I was a spouse to someone else and they asked me to send my child away, it would grieve me as well. I doubt that I would send my child away. I'd probably go with them. If you can't accept my child, then you can't accept me. Right. And so this is the way we look at it today. If you love me, you're going to love my children. Yeah. You're going to love them all. But God talked to Abraham, and he told him, listen to your wife Sarah. We need you to go ahead on and send them away, and we're also going to make him a blessed nation. So he was also going to bless him. So God gave him bread. Abraham gave him bread, him and Hagar, bread and water, and he blessed him, gave him his birthrights, and he sent him away. But he didn't get as much as Isaac, but he did give him some birthrights. So that's the golden text. It says, God said unto Abraham, let it not be grievous in thy sight because of the lad, and because of thou bondwoman, the bondwoman who was a slave. She was an Egyptian, and so was he. Ishmael was mixed. They were also Egyptians. So that makes you wonder, now, if he was an Egyptian, I know that Egyptians were kind of dark complexion, back then. So I wonder, what nationality is he mixed with? Is he mixed with black? So it says, God said unto Abraham, let it not be grievous in thy sight because of the lad. We're on the golden text. Praise the Lord, first man.
Praise the Lord.
And because of thou bondwoman, don't let it grieve you. Many of us, if we were to have that situation in our lives and someone tell you to send your son away, then there would be a big argument, a big fight. You want me to send my son away? I don't think so. If you can't accept my son, then you can't accept me. Amen. So he wasn't too happy about that, Abraham. So, but God said, don't do that. Don't let it grieve you. And then he said, in all, we on the golden text, it says, in all that Sarah hath said unto you, hearken unto her voice. Listen to what Sarah said. Sarah had already seen a problem arising. she knew that it was going to be a problem later.
Yes.
She walked in and she caught Ishmael taunting Isaac, teasing him. And so she immediately knew that this is going to be a problem later when it's time to divide the birthrights. So she saw how Abraham had favored both sons. And so it was not God's plan for Ishmael to carry on the lineage of Jesus.
Right.
It wasn't God's plan for it to go, to be given to a slave, an Egyptian. God had already known what his plan was. Now Hagar, the way that Ishmael was conceived, it wasn't God's will. They went on their own and they did things their way. Sarah and Abraham got together and they said, well, why don't we just choose Hagar, just take the Egyptian slave, bondmaid, and just sleep with her and conceive through her, and then we'll have a child. Since God predicted, he prophesied and he told us that we were going to have a son, a child. Well, why don't we do it our way? But that wasn't God's way. She was a slave. She was bound. She was under bondage. So it wasn't God's intention for his child, for Abraham's child, to be born in bondage through someone. So this is how we made the comparison last week. One child was born under the law, and one child was born under grace. So one child was bound, and one child was born free. So Sarah was not a slave, but Hagar was a slave. So when Ishmael was born, he was born bound under slavery. But when Isaac was born, he was born under a free woman. This is what God's plan was to be born free. His whole intention was to come that we may be free. He said, I came not to condemn you, the world, but that the world will have life through him, everlasting. So that was the plan. So when God told him to leave, when God told him to listen to Sarah and go on and separate now so we won't have no problems later, so that later on he didn't want Abraham to get confused and then all of a sudden end up, because he did also favor his son Ishmael, he didn't want him to end up giving the birthright to Ishmael because he was the firstborn. It wasn't God's plan. So God wanted to, let's settle this now. Sarah wanted to settle it now. The birthright goes to my son because the miracle that took place inside of Sarah. God placed the seed of Isaac inside of Sarah. They were married. They were doing things right. They were legal. They were legally married. Hagar and Abraham was not. The seed that was placed into Sarah was placed by God. It was God's plan, God's intention, and when he promised him a son, that was the son that God promised, was the one that was given to Sarah. But Hagar, the seed that was placed into him, was man's plot. That was their idea. It wasn't God's idea. So Sarah wanted to make sure, God wanted to make sure, everybody wanted to make sure that the lineage of Jesus, the bloodline, would come through Isaac and not Ishmael. So that's why God talked to Abraham and said, listen to Sarah. Go on and do what she said to do. She's right. I'll bless him too, but the birthright is going to Isaac. He didn't have anything against Hagar. Abraham didn't have anything against Hagar. And he favored Ishmael. So he already was fond of him. So they already saw, God already saw, this is going to be a problem. But you know what? There's nothing too hard for God.
No, not right.
Even if she would have stayed, God still would have worked it out.
Yes, yes.
Got a plan.
He had a plan.
Yeah.
And he doesn't make mistakes.
Nope.
Regardless. That was Sarah's idea.
Yeah.
You know what? I see a problem. God said, listen to her. And sometimes, I know First Lady Sanders and Dr. Sanders, Mom would always say things, God would always speak to her. And she would tell us things, this and that, and God, da. And then right behind, she said, you better hear me. You better listen. That's because God was using her. God spoke to her.
Yes.
She was a woman of God. She was
Yes,
a powerful woman.
Yes.
And she could hear the voice of God. And she was obedient to the voice of God.
Yes.
And if it hadn't have been for the First Lady and Dr. Sanders, I know she would always tell him a lot of things. We probably wouldn't be in this church today.
Amen.
Because she was behind him, supporting him.
Yes.
100%. Why don't we do this?
Yeah.
Why don't we do that? I really would like this, and I really would like that. I really would. I really would like those curtains up there. Why don't we put the podium right here?
Yes. Yeah.
You better hear me. If you didn't hear her, oh boy. You think Sarah got upset? Oh man, you don't want First Lady Sanders to get upset. You don't want to see her upset. You better hear her when she say, you better hear me.
Yes.
But she might got upset, but she was so humble.
She was very humble. She was humble with it.
She
She knew how to do it. She
Yeah.
knew everything. She didn't argue. She didn't raise her voice. She just said, you better hear me.
Yeah.
And walked away. Silence is powerful. Don't let Mother Sanders shut down and get quiet.
Especially not saying nothing.
You know you're in trouble then.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you're picking up the phone. Mama? If you didn't get that phone call at night, because she would call her children every night, touch bases with all of us. If you didn't get that phone call, you know you done messed up. And 9 times out of 10, 99% of the time, she was correct. 99%. Very few things that she would request were incorrect.
Yeah.
So she knew the voice of the Lord.
Yes, she
Dr.
did.
Sanders knew the voice of the Lord. So Abraham knew the voice of the Lord. So when God told him, you better listen to her, gonna listen to her, do as she has requested. And then we thank God for that because of the lineage of Jesus Christ. And it paved the way for the birth of Jesus Christ. And we thank God for that. Because it wasn't his plan to be born to come through a slave, a bondage. It's just like when he chose Mary, he chose a virgin. He chose a virgin. Now, if he's coming to set us free, why would he be born through someone that's a part of the lineage that was bound? How could we be free from sin when he's born through someone who was a part of the lineage of someone that was bound?
You could not.
Right. So if you chose Isaac, then it would have ruined the plan of our freedom. It had to be perfect.
Yes.
The bloodline had to be right. Which is why the children of Israel were chosen. They were a chosen generation. And he chose them. When they would get off line, when they get off track, then he'd stir them up and get them right back on track. So they were a highly Christian generation. They loved God. They chose God. They worshiped the Lord. They knew who God was. They knew who he was. So they were especially chosen. So it says that all that Sarah hath said unto thee, hearken, that means listen unto her voice. For in Isaac shall thy seed be called. In Isaac, he said it right there, in Isaac, the seed of Jesus Christ is going to be called.
Amen.
Who's the seed? He is. He said in Isaac, not in Ishmael. Ishmael's a slave. How can I come to set the world free if I'm being born through a slave? So Isaac was the freed one. He was saved by grace. We were saved by grace, not by the law.
Amen.
So that's the point of that whole scenario there. Now let's read through the lesson, starting at 21. And it's going to tell us, it says, and the thing was very grievous in Abraham's sight because of his son. We went over that. I would be upset too. Grieved, disturbed. And God said unto Abraham, let it not be grievous in thy sight because of the lad, and because of thy bondwoman. And all that Sarah hath said unto thee, hearken, listen unto her voice. For in Isaac shall thy seed be called. The seed is going to be called through Isaac.
Yeah.
It says, and also of the son of the bondwoman will I make a nation, because he is thy seed. He's Abraham's seed. So he said, I'm going to bless him too, don't worry. So it made Abraham feel better when he found out that God was going to also bless him as a nation. But like we heard today, they're still fighting. The nation of Isaac, Israel, and that kind of thing, and Ishmael, they're still fighting over the birthright. But he was also blessed. And then Abraham rose up early in the morning. He didn't hesitate. He didn't wait a week. He didn't think about it. He woke up early the next morning. It's okay with 9:30. Our plans wasn't cut off at 9:30, but we're going to at least read through the lesson. It says, and Abraham arose early in the morning. He was being obedient to God's voice, which is what we need to do. Amen. Be obedient. Move while the waters trouble. If you wait, you could miss your blessing.
Yes, man.
And see, God's going to get done what he wants done, whether he uses you or not. If he don't use you, he will use somebody else, and you'll miss out on your blessing. Because God's plan is going to come to pass. It's going to happen. Can't nobody stop God. No. The devil can't stop God. The devil comes in our lives and he tries to send obstacles to try to tear you down, and knock you down, and discourage you, and keep you from your blessing. But he can't. He can't stop God. If that blessing is coming from God and it's intended for you, it's going to happen. Yes, man. Don't even worry. Why worry? Why fret? Why get depressed? If it's God's will, it's going to happen. If it's God's will, Phyllis, it's going to happen. Can't nobody stop it. If God has a blessing for you, it's going to come to pass. Amen. The devil comes. See, the pastor's headed for a blessing. You see how the devil tried to twist your ankle? Here and through, God is already blessing. We're in the midst of being blessed, of God's blessing coming to pass. It's already coming to pass. But the devil is mad. He's trying to do whatever he can to stop God's will from being done. But guess what? He can't stop it. He can't stop it. He can't stop God's will from happening. If it's God's will for this church to be blessed, if it's God's will for this church to be filled, guess what? If it's God's will, it's going to happen. The devil can't stop it. The devil can't stop it. We're the ones who allow the devil to stop. We're the ones who give in. We're the ones. Ouch. You know what? I'm not going to do it no more. You don't give up. We're the ones that give up. We are the ones that give up. Amen. We have to stand on the word of God. Exactly. So don't worry. Don't fret. Pastor, don't worry. Don't fret. Don't give in. It's just a trick of the enemy. You're headed for a blessing. I can tell where I'm headed for a blessing. The devil just starts stirring up mess. Just starts, and that's all. I must be headed for a blessing. That's all. That's all. She's headed for a blessing. This church is headed for a blessing. Yes. So it's up to us as the saints of God, we got to come in like Aaron, the way Aaron came in with Moses. When Moses was holding up that rod and they were crossing the Red Sea, and when his arms started getting tired, Aaron came in and held his arms up. No, don't give, I'm your help, I'm your support.
Right.
So we have to be the pastor's support right now. We have to be her support to let the devil know that he can't win. He is not going to win, Phyllis. Phyllis, the devil's not going to win. We have to help the pastor. She's hurt. We have to hold her up. Amen. We have to do this. We have to do that. We have to continue to do what God has called us to do. If you're called to usher, we have to be the ushers. If you're called to play the tambourine, play that tambourine to the glory of God.
Amen. Amen.
If you're here to open and support and conduct it, continue. Come in like Aaron and just hold her up. Hold her up. The same way Aaron held up Moses. So it's our responsibility. Okay, so it says, so Abraham, he rose up the next morning and took bread and a bottle of water and gave it unto Hagar, putting it on her shoulder and the child, and sent her away. And she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. And I believe that's where they settled in Beersheba. But they thought the boy almost died from thirst, but it wasn't God's plan. Why? Because God said he was going to be a blessed nation. Why would he go out there and let him die when he's already blessed him? So why worry? Why should Hagar, why did she start worrying? She saw that he had been blessed, but they began to pray. They began to pray, and God heard their prayer, and then he showed them some water. It says, so this is what happened. It says, he rose up the next day, he blessed them, put it on her shoulder, and on the lad's shoulder, and away they went, and she departed and wandered in Beersheba, and the water was spent in the bottle. What happened when you spend something? It's gone. It was used up. The water was spent in the bottle, and she cast the child under one of the shrubs. Go and lay over here under this tree and be cool. Just going over there. The water was all used up. And she went and she sat her down. I think that's an error, they said her. And she sat her down over against him a good way off. No, that's not an error. And she sat her down over against him. Oh, okay, so she sat against him a good way off, as it were a bow shot. She said, let me not see the death of the child. And she sat over against him and lifted up her voice and wept. She lifted up her voice, Phyllis, and cried unto the Lord. When God says he's going to do something,
You're going to do it.
Don't worry. Don't worry. You can make requests. Lord, we need some water right now. I know you blessed me. We need some water. You already blessed me. You already said I'm going to be a blessed nation. But Lord, I'm thirsty. Send me some water. It's hot out here. And we need a place to live. Just make your request.
Amen.
God, yeah, make it known. He said, ask and it shall be given unto you. So when your faith has increased, I don't blame Hagar for doing this, asking God and praying and crying, because maybe she wasn't that much of a woman of God, but it just depends according to your faith. We can't judge people because I don't know how much faith you have.
Right.
Maybe you may not have the same amount of faith that she has,
Right.
but you still have faith.
Yes.
So she got a little weary and she wept and she cried, but she asked. So he heard Ishmael's cry. So it says, and God heard the voice of the lad. She cried. I wonder why God didn't hear. He heard the voice of the lad.
Yeah.
He heard him because he knew that he had blessed him. That's the one he's going to be a blessed nation as well.
Yes. Amen.
So obviously the lad had learned a little bit about God. Learned quite a bit about God. I'm sure Abraham had instilled the word of God in him. He had Christian values. It says, and God heard the voice of the lad, and the angel of God called to Hagar out of heaven and said unto her, what aileth thee, Hagar? What's wrong with you, Hagar? What's the problem? What's troubling you, Hagar? The angel said, what's troubling you? There was a question right there. Why are you worried when God has blessed you? He's already told you what's supposed to happen. Well, how many of you would love to know what your destiny is? What's going to happen to you in the next 20 years? Wouldn't that be great if you knew?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, yes.
That would be great.
Yeah, it would.
Well, see, God had already told them they were going to be a blessed nation. So why was she worried? If God told me I was going to be a blessed millionaire in the next 35 years, I wouldn't worry about anything. I wouldn't worry about anything. Even if I was laying in the hospital, I didn't worry. God's going to heal me because he already told me I'm going to be a millionaire in 35 to 40 years. How old would I be? I'd probably be 100. That's a long time. I don't know if I want to live that long. As long as I'm in good health. You see some elderly 100-year-olds dancing.
You right.
Dancing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jogging, doing gymnastics. So, you never know. We can't doubt God. So, the angel told her, fear not, for God hath heard the voice of the lad where he is. I wonder why they didn't say that they heard her voice. She was the one crying. It says, arise, lift up the lad, and hold him in thine hand, for I will make him a great nation. Again, he confirmed it.
Yeah.
Maybe she didn't know. God told Abraham that he was going to make him a great nation. Maybe she didn't know that he was going to be a great nation. But she knows now.
Yes.
So, I'm sure from that point on, she didn't worry about anything else. I know I wouldn't. It says, and God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water, and she went and filled the bottle with water and gave the lad drink. Then he got strong then. It says, and God was with the lad, and he grew and dwelt in the wilderness and became an archer. And he dwelt in the wilderness of Paran. And his mother took him a wife out of the land of Egypt.